Hello, TFO family, and welcome to another episode of our Musician of the Week interview. And today I have with me Mr. Mark Lauer. How are you, Mark?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So, Mark, how long have you been playing with the TFO?
Let's see. My first summer was 2015, and I think there was a couple summers where I was doing other things. So I think four of the past few years.
Awesome. Yeah, so you've been with us for about half of TFO, like the whole existence of TFO.
I guess so. Yeah. Wow.
Pretty cool. What is your favorite thing about TFO?
I really like the people who are in the orchestra. They're all fantastic musicians, but more importantly, fantastic human beings. They're Everyone is really friendly. Everyone just is very welcoming, and I also enjoy the connection to the local community. It's something that's, I think, very unique to TFO, and something that keeps me coming back is how it's not only just my fellow musicians who I get along with, which in general, when you go to a festival, that's pretty, you know, one of the special things about most festivals. But uh, it's just the local community is so on board. All the host families are just wonderful people. All of the local business folks and community members have just all kind of get together and are just as eager and excited to hang out with us, get to know us. I know there's a lot of host families and community members who are become really good friends with musicians over the years, and it's kind of like you have another family kind of in Branson. So that I think that's really my favorite thing. It's like going to a family reunion every year.
Yeah, I think a lot of our musicians think of Branson as like a second home, and I know like Joe has talked about that before at concerts and stuff. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
Oh yeah,
Another tally in favor of the people in the community. Awesome.
big
Um,
time, big time.
yeah. So for the rest of the year, when you're not at TFO, where are you living, working, schooling? What are you doing?
Currently, I live in Tallahassee, Florida, and I am working on my doctorate in bassoon at Florida State University.
That's
So,
awesome.
and I will say that one of the many reasons why I came down here to do my master's and now my doctorate, is because of all of the FSU alumni who are involved, including yourself.
That's right. Go
But
Knowles.
that all yeah, go Knowles. Really, so many people from FSU have been involved and are still involved with TFO, and they're all just really, really good. And so that that was one of the big things that. So that's one part of what I do is the schooling, and the other part of what I do is working, which involves some of the orchestras down here. I play. I'm the principal bassoonist of the Northwest Florida Symphony. I'm the second bassoonist in Columbus, Georgia. Their symphony. It's the Columbus Symphony, but I have to specify because there's three of them in the country.
Oh.
There's one in Indiana, which is about the same size, kind of a smaller orchestra, and then there's of course Columbus, Ohio. So
Mhm.
it's Columbus Symphony Orchestra, Georgia. Um, I love playing in both of those groups. There's fantastic musicians and just great people in both of those organizations, and everyone plays really well. Keeps me practicing for sure. And I do a lot of other just kind of subbing. I've played in Tallahassee, Pensacola, Augusta, Georgia, Valdosta, just kind of anywhere that will have me. And I've really been fortunate here in the Southeast that there's just a lot of orchestras in this region, and just a lot of great people. So I do a lot of that. I do teaching some private students. During my master's, I was a teaching assistant, so I taught methods and coached chamber music and taught some of the undergrads, and I loved that and still love teaching and doing that. I kind of miss teaching right now because COVID kind of prevents me from doing that. But that's a little bit of like what I do. So I'm professionally involved in performing, but I'm also working and finishing up a professional degree. So that's what I spend my time doing down here.
Oh, that's awesome. You're a pretty busy dude, Mark.
I'm very grateful that I am. So
That is great. All right, so you're living and working in Tallahassee, playing all over the place in the Southeast, and working on this really tough degree at the same time. Um, and that's a lot already, as it is. So, what happened to you and your work, like your momentum, everything, when things started shutting down due to COVID-19?
well, I was in a I mean I was particularly busy, and I was I had for the first time ever a performance basically every weekend for 2 solid months, either in an orchestra or I had a recital. There was a couple chamber music things I was involved in, and so uh, with the exception of my recital, I was getting paid for all of that. And I also had at the time 3 students, which is a lot for bassoons in Tallahassee. It's not Texas, unfortunately, but I had 3 really eager students, and I really was really kind of hitting my stride professionally for the first time, and I was talking. One of the other things I was doing too was I was earning a little extra money on the side doing recital hall monitoring and technician stuff, which sounds fancy, but it's really just me unlocking things and making sure that people don't burn it down. I was talking to one of the other recital techs about, yeah, I'm doing this and that coming up, and he's like, "Are you sure? Because this virus is coming along." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Maybe some of them might get impacted a little bit." And then all of a sudden, seemingly all of a sudden, everything just evaporated, and that was really really upsetting. Not just, I mean, I was, financially, I was really looking forward to those gigs because that they were going to help me get through the summer, in particular, which tends to be for a lot of musicians kind of a light time financially. There's not as much performing going on unless you're involved in some type of professional summer thing. And I was kind of, it's like all of a sudden going a million miles an hour, and I stop, and all I'm doing, of course, is playing, practicing, studying, doing all of this. So now all of it's gone, and I felt pretty kind of like a castaway, kind of stranded. I was like, oh, it's everything's gone now. Like I'm just, and everything's closing down, and everything's very scary, and was worried about my mom's health. She lives by herself in my hometown in Jefferson City, Missouri. I'm actually a Missourian too. And I was worried about my health and my friend's health and like what's gonna happen. Um, so yeah, it was it was it was it was scary. It was I now that we've kind of been in this new version of reality a while, I'm a little bit more used to it. But yeah, it changed everything.
Yeah, so like a lot of stuff came to a halt. You were doing so much stuff, like not just your schoolwork and everything that's involved in being a student at FSU, but also like all your gig work just poof.
Yeah, and I remember at one point I just I kept everything in my I have my little calendar book. And I'm writing everything down. I keep track of just kind of my whole life, and I remember at one point just kind of tossing it in frustration, like it's all gone. Like it doesn't. It's meaningless. I have nothing to prepare for.
Hmm.
Seemingly. I mean, at least in the foreseeable future, and I have nothing going on, and I felt. Uh, I think as musicians, a lot of us our identities are tied up so much in being musicians. So when all of that went away, there was a bit of an existential kind of crisis. Like, what are we? What do we do? Like, um, it's I wasn't as to the point where I was ready to carve my name in a rafter and check out, but I was definitely in a position where I was really like kind of questioning everything, and I went back home for a while to kind of ride everything out. But you know, when you're going a million miles an hour and everything stops, you have time to reflect and you have time to take care of your health mentally and physically.
Hmm.
I'd been putting off uh, doctor's appointments for so long due to back issues that I finally addressed that. I ended up getting back surgery and addressing that, and the healing time didn't matter so much because nothing was going on. So it's okay. It was to be taking that time. Uh, I was able to get mental health things addressed and get back on top of that for the first time in a while. And some of it had kind of gotten swept under the rug in the past year. So in hindsight, I really I'm not trying. I'm not saying that I was able to take the most of it, make the most of it. I was able to focus on myself and focus on my health. I put the bassoon down a little bit. Then I made a lot of reeds and put those away, and then I came back refreshed a little bit when the new semester came, and I was, uh, you know, even though I wasn't necessarily practicing for gigs or anything in particular, I could just work on playing the bassoon without the stress of this sort of Damocles. This weekend you got to play it and you got to nail it and you got to hit all the you got to play this lick and everyone's going to be listening. Like all that was gone. So
Yeah,
um, in those I'm not, in those regards, I was able to manage my way through it, and so I'm really grateful and happy that I was able to do that.
for sure. So you were able to like take a step back from the rat race and take care of you, and that's I think an excellent silver lining to the situation that we're all in. Uh,
Yeah.
but COVID-19 wasn't the only thing that wrecked 2020, right? There's a lot of other stuff going on. Was your life at all, or your students' lives, or anyone near and dear to you, like, were they affected by any of the crazy civil unrest that happened last year, in addition to the COVID-19 insanity?
Directly, I wasn't necessarily affected, at least in terms of like I could turn off. I had the privilege that I could turn off the media and it wouldn't be there. But a lot of my close friends were traumatized by it, and really, the more that I uh, watched, the more uh, the more upset I became as well. And I think it's really easy being who I am to be able to compartmentalize it like that, to be able to acknowledge it, but also have some bit of separation. but the fact that I have friends and even just people in general who are um, experiencing this level of uh, just trauma and injustice, not only in big ways but in tiny ways and medium ways. Sometimes
Totally.
by sometimes by awkward, well-meaning people who think they're doing the right thing but aren't. Which, at the end of the day, if you're exposed to that sort of thing, it just becomes part of the whole. Good intentions aside, it still hurts, and I think that being able to recognize that reality from as a as a person who pretty much who doesn't fit into any demographic that is really um, targeted in certain those ways, uh, is tremendously important. And I, I'm trying not to sound too cliche because when words, it's so easy just to say platitudes, to say the same kind of cliches, um, but really just taking a lot of time just to listen to my friends and say, listen, I'm so sorry that this is going on, this has been going on, um, but I love you, I support you, I I can't really say anything too much more meaningful than I want to be on your side, and
Right.
I hope that we can make tomorrow better. So, um, I think I think that's been I think that is how it has affected me, and I've chosen to uh, let it affect me in that way so that I can um, be a better person. It's easy to it could have been easy to shut the door on it, and it's tempting to,
Right.
um, because you just don't want to believe, when things like this happen. But it's the daily reality for a lot of people. So
Right.
that's all I can that's all I
Yeah.
can really say. Um, I think
Yeah, for
without
sure.
sounding, yeah,
You're like channeling your observation and frustration into being an advocate and a friend for people who need you. Good.
yeah, and also I, when I when as a when I went to music school and I moved to the big city, which from Jefferson City to Kansas City, I might as well have been moving to New York City.
Right.
Um, but Kansas City's a pretty darn progressive city in the Midwest. It's got a lot of and very artistic city. So for me, from my point of view, growing up in a small Midwesternish town, it was like that. I felt so comfortable. I finally felt like I had found this kind of safe, exciting place full of thoughtful, socially conscious, and artistically, and I really jumped in with both feet, and I felt that's the sense of community and the sense of being home. I'm with, I feel welcome. Um, I I'm no longer this kind of oddball nerd. I mean, I am, but I'm around other oddball nerds and
Right.
musicians and artists and weirdos, and which I don't use as a pejorative. I mean that just awesome, cool people. And then when you find out that even in those circles there are issues, and that not everyone gets to feel that, I think was the connection that I made, and I think that's kind of where I've drawn a lot of my motivation to advocate, because everyone has that right to feel safe and welcome and happy with people like them. And it breaks my heart that what I was able to enjoy when I finally, left my small sheltered town. Uh, that other people do the same thing, but then it's just as bad, if not worse. And that was that was something that I am still kind of turning around in my brain
Mhm.
and wanting to. It's the way that I can personally connect and transfer
Yeah,
experiences the closest. So
for sure. Um, so you're doing like whatever you can to be a part of your community's healing process and moving forward and all that good stuff. So, as a musician and an artistic oddball type person, um, what kind of role do you think music and the arts will play in the healing process from all of the traumatic events of 2020?
I think I think that when you look at other um, traumatic and challenging chapters in American history, there there has always been a sort of period of time after where everyone is processing, and I think one of the most noticeable ways that people do that is through music, art, television, movies, all types of media. Um, and I think that it's a I can't say exactly how music will, I can't, I can't tell you like what kinds of music and what kind of art is going to happen in the next few years. I'm not that kind of smart crystal ball kind of connected person.
Of course, you're not a
um
fortune teller. You're not that kind of.
I,
Oh well,
I, I don't have, yeah, I'm not nearly, yeah, I'm not the, but in my small piece of the world, um music has always been a way for groups of people to coalesce, to express ideas, to commiserate with each other. uh, the history of American music is largely a history of marginalized people who, uh, at least the history of American music is the history of marginalized people uh, singing work songs, spirituals, protest music. There's tons of it from, especially like the Vietnam years. There's tons of also like super almost shall we say aggressively patriotic music in the post 9/11 years.
true. Even
Um,
as far back as Beethoven, right?
yeah,
He wrote
there
us.
was there everyone was reacting to the things that were happening at the time, um, and so I think that it's uh, it's always kind of been a part of what we do and who we are, and music has that kind of power to help people feel empowered to take on the challenges of the day and to get together and be better.
Yeah,
And so whenever bad things happen, there's always this wave of music and art and media that comes after that people make to get through it, no matter what your whatever that it, no matter what your political or religious or lack of religious things, convictions are. It's always there. Everyone uses it and everyone relies on it, and so now more than ever we're relying on art and media to get us through this as well, both the pandemic and the civil unrest, and you know, so
yeah. absolutely. We're gonna play a critical role, I think. Yeah, like
Oh
we've
yeah,
got, I think a lot of work to do, but I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens in music and the arts. Again, like you said, we can't tell the future. We can't say exactly what's going to come out of it, but stay tuned. Something
yeah.
will. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I have to ask anyway. Do you miss performing and teaching in person?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Um, it's the online stuff is cool, and it has its an online stuff has and recording definitely has its own merits, but uh, without being in, it's not the same. You have to be in person to really experience it.
Mhm.
Uh, there's especially with the type of music that we play, orchestral music, chamber music. Um, it really is designed and has been designed to be experienced in person. Um, it they didn't have technology when Beethoven and Mozart or
Mhm.
Brahms or whoever were alive, so the idea was you'd be listening to it there, listening to the people, blowing through the instruments or sawing away on the strings, like right there. It's visceral,
Mhm.
and
And that was it. Like that was your one
yeah.
chance.
So, they didn't. There's a certain amount of music that is made to be listened to in cars and in stores and elevators and sound systems for sure.
Mhm.
But what makes what we do special is um, we're recreating it on the spot right in front of you, and you can witness it. You can feel the vibe. Feel this sounds very. You can feel it. You really can when especially when you listen to wind bands that are really good and in tune. Um, the air changes and everyone together like it's an experience. There's a reason why um, people in religious services sing together.
Mhm. For
Um,
sure.
it's
And it's
it's
like at a
yeah.
TFO concert, right? There's always something like special floating through the air. Everyone
Yeah.
kind of got some electricity flowing through them.
Oh yeah. Like I can listen to a piece of music, a really really good recording on really nice speakers, and really enjoy it. But when I'm making it or experiencing it in an audience, and especially when it's with friends and people you know and people you love, um, it's it's you can't replace it. You
Right.
can't. You, you
There's no
can
substitute.
no. You can get you can get pictures and recordings, but they're kind of like ghosts. They're kind
Yeah.
of like they're this kind of incomplete version of it, and so I think that that's why you can't really replace it.
Yeah.
Um, not fully.
Right. I agree with you 100%. So you would like to get back to teaching and playing in person.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. And so
well,
knowing that, what would it mean to you to play in an
without a
in-person
doubt.
TFO this summer?
I mean, I, I just hope that I can get through the music without becoming overwhelmed emotionally. Really, some of the I have done some performing under very modified and controlled circumstances, and I every time I'm doing it, I'm like, oh my goodness, like there are people in the Met who aren't playing right now. Like this is like I'm so lucky to be doing this, and um, the audience turnout hasn't been any. Maybe it's been better actually than before the pandemic. Oddly enough, or maybe it's just like they're spread out more, so the hall looks big. I don't know what it is. But I have noticed that like we sold out some concerts at limited capacity, and some of those limited capacities have been more than what people have been coming to before. So um, I I'm I think it would just I want to do it safely, of course. I don't want to be, and I think that TFO has put in a lot of thought and effort to make sure that the experience is going to be as safe and uh, as safe as possible.
Yeah, we're
But
trying.
it's hard. It's hard, especially with how quickly things change. But
Mhm.
some groups have been doing it, and especially being outdoors is going to be, eh, despite the humidity, it's going to be fine because we're all going to be, in a place where things are safer. And I, it's it'll just be nice to see people. I always thought I was an introvert, and then I dated somebody who told me, "No, you're not an introvert." And then I realized how I was actually more of an extrovert than I ever thought I was, because I never considered myself to be super extroverted. And maybe it's a spectrum, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not like way out there, but I really discovered that about myself. Like, wow, I really do love being around my friends. Maybe not like huge crowds or anything like that. I'm not the type to go up, to go clubbing or anything. But I you know people who I've come to know over the years mean so much to me, and being able to hang out with them. And I'm so fortunate that so many of the people that I do know in my life in TFO and through school and other creative things, they're just so many wonderful human beings. They're cool. Like, seriously, like, if you happen to live in a city where there's a lot of artsy stuff going around, there's a good chance that the person behind the barista serving you coffee is one of the most fascinating people you know. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, like, if you got all of the servers and people working day jobs in Kansas City who are creators, like, it's almost all of them, or even if they're not necessarily, or there's some type of creative person with ideas. Like,
Yeah.
it boggles the mind that it's all like all these people are out there, and I've gotten to meet them and get to know them in a
It's
way that
true.
not a lot of people really get to. And
I'm sure in Branson it's like that much more because everyone, like people flocked there originally because they
yeah,
were entertainers.
there's a lot of there are all of these people who are um like serious artists, musicians. They're stage people, sound people, creative people who just make things happen, who are well, who who just know stuff and know interesting things, and they're all around Branson because, yeah, like you said, the the entertainment industry has been so huge over the years. So I think that part of it, maybe. I think that's, there's a lot of like hidden gems of people,
Oh yeah.
and even TFO itself is kind of a hidden gem. Less so now. I mean, there's a lot of people now who know about it,
It
especially
becomes
the decade it's been around. It's becoming more and more of a name that people know, which is really exciting. Um, and yeah, like, I think that's what I think that's what being able to see all these people would mean. It would mean I'd get to actually see these people, and
Mhm.
you know, uh, I'd be able to feel less like one of those astronauts in the isolation thing.
Yeah,
Uh, so
for
that's what
sure.
it feels like.
Yeah. Um I hear you. I really like that you said that um you You hope you can make it through because I feel like that's what I'm gonna be too. I'm gonna like we're gonna start playing Mendelssohn or something in the first, and you're just be like, I can't do it.
Oh yeah.
We're all gonna be a mess. Tissues for everyone.
Oh yeah. I mean, tissues in general. I
Yes.
do think that I do enjoy the fact that we are more sanitary now because of this, and I think we should keep some of that after the pandemic a little bit.
Nope.
Like I bought a bunch of pet pads, and I empty my spit into
Oh,
pet pads.
just like,
Uh,
what are you doing with those puppy pads?
and then
Dad.
And they come in concert black too because they have the charcoal activated ones too. So you can just put that down by your stand. If your reed water spills, no big deal. If you need to
Heard it
empty,
here first, folks. Concert
if
black puppy pads.
I just bought like a giant pack online for like no money, and I that's not like a thing that I take with me. And I got the idea from Northwest Florida Symphony where they're they bought a whole bunch and they provide them to all the wind players, and we have to use them. And I'm like, we should have been doing that before,
Yeah.
um, because yeah, there's condensation
Right.
that comes out of all of our instruments, and we never had a designated place for it. So
And at TFO, there's this crazy girl that runs around with her bare feet.
yes, with all of us putting our shoes on the stage, then we're walking around and like,
Who knows what we're stepping in?
I mean, we, we we're we're a close crew.
That's
There's a certain point where we know each other at feet on stage floor level.
yes.
Like that's a level of intimacy that no one likes to brag about or consider, but that's a really important one.
It's really important, and here we are. And unfortunately, we'll be on dirt this summer for for better or worse, I guess. So
That'll actually be like barefoot in the dirt. Like man, it's like being a kid again.
I know it's like
So,
being in the Ozarks.
oh my goodness, yeah,
It'll be great. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Mark. It's nice to catch up with you and hear how you're doing and what you're up to and how important it is to have an in-person TFO this summer.
yeah.
Uh,
Thanks for talking to me.
yeah. So for all of you out there in our audience, stay tuned. We'll have more interviews and interesting things with our musicians in the coming weeks. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.